Who decides what moves when supply chains tighten? Technology is increasingly determining who gets priority, who absorbs delay, and who bears risk when supply chains tighten. As planning, logistics, and execution decisions move into shared digital systems, leverage is shifting, often quietly, away from individual operators and toward the platforms and entities that control rules, access, and sequencing. This shift rarely announces itself. It shows up when capacity tightens and options disappear. When priority is decided by code, not conversation. In constrained supply chains, outcomes are rarely limited by demand alone. They are shaped by who moves first. Today, that decision is increasingly embedded in systems. Allocation logic within transportation platforms, service tiers, hard-coded into freight networks, exception rules inside automated planning tools, queue management across ports, yards, and warehouses. Under normal conditions, these rules fade into the background. Under stress, they determine which shipments move, which wait, and which quietly fall out of plan. What once required negotiation is now often resolved automatically, long before escalation reaches human decision makers. Integration brings efficiency, and dependency integration is typically presented as progress. APIs connect partners, data flows faster, planning becomes synchronized. But integration also narrows exit ramps. Once a supplier, carrier, or shipper is embedded in a shared platform, flexibility declines. Overrides become harder. Independent workarounds shrink. Visibility improves, but discretion often disappears, particularly for smaller or less influential participants. As more decision-making authority shifts into centralized systems, power follows. Those who design, own, or influence the platform gain leverage. Those who merely participate must operate within constraints they don't control. Platforms don't remove scarcity, they allocate it. A persistent misconception is that digital platforms make capacity more available. They don't. Platforms make scarcity visible, ranked, and enforced. When truck capacity, warehouse space, rail slots, or port appointments are limited, systems decide which loads are expedited, which are deferred, which trigger exceptions, which are deprioritized without discussion. These outcomes reflect embedded priorities, contract tiers, historical volumes, preferred shipper status, or system-defined thresholds. For organizations outside the top tier, technology can feel less like an enabler and more like a gatekeeper. Why these power shifts are surfacing now? These dynamics existed before, but they are becoming harder to ignore for three reasons. Physical limits are tighter. Logistics, labor, and infrastructure constraints mean prioritization matters more than price. Digitization is no longer optional. With platforms now mainstream, fewer decisions happen informally or locally. Tolerance for delay has collapsed. Technology compresses timelines, leaving little room to renegotiate once plans lock. Together, these forces concentrate influence earlier in the process and in fewer hands. What supply chain leaders are being forced to reevaluate. The strategic risk is not falling behind technologically. It is misunderstanding where control now resides. Questions executives increasingly need to answer include: who controls prioritization when capacity tightens? Where do we sit in platform hierarchies we don't govern? Which partners have override authority and which do not? How dependent are we on systems we cannot influence? These are not IT questions. They are power and risk questions. Why this matters beyond logistics. As technology reshapes supply chain power, the implications extend beyond delivery performance. They affect revenue timing, customer relationships, supplier survivability, access to constrained markets. Technology doesn't just optimize movement, it redistributes leverage. Organizations that recognize this can renegotiate relationships, diversify dependencies, and design digital resilience intentionally. Those that don't may discover, too late, that visibility came at the cost of control. The power in supply chains. Supply chain technology is no longer just improving how goods move, it is shaping who decides what moves, when, and for whom. Power in supply chains is increasingly exercised through platforms, systems, and embedded rules, not contracts alone. Treating technology as neutral infrastructure is no longer a safe assumption. The next competitive advantage will belong to organizations that understand this shift and govern their digital dependencies as carefully as they manage cost, capacity, and risk. You've been listening to Sustainability Soundbites by Environment and Energy Leader. For partnership opportunities, please reach out to our team.